All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Welcome to our Employee Center Academy. Our topic for today will be content experiences and content publishing. And if you've tuned into an academy before, you know I get excited about a lot of our topics, but I do have to say that this is one of my favorite topics to speak about. So we are in for a really good academy session today. And if we haven't met, my name is Allison French. I'm part of our product team here at ServiceNow, and I am joined by two very amazing and expert level colleagues, Corey and Rohan. We will be leading today's session and helping answer your questions on today's topic. And so if you see some answers coming through in the Q&A, it will either be from me, Corey, or Rohan. And if this is your first time tuning into an Academy session, I want to talk a little bit about what to expect before we dive in. So first and foremost, these sessions are for you. So whether you are a customer, a partner, or someone who's just generally interested in ServiceNow, the entire goal for today's session is to really help you and enable you on our product so you can better understand what it does and how to use it. So by all means, please do interact with us, ask questions, type in the chat, and I will be giving some specific instructions for how to specifically interact in our Zoom webinar in a moment. The other thing I want to call out about today is that it will not just be a presentation. So I'm going to be kicking off things in a PowerPoint slide. We're going to be going over some grounding information to kind of baseline. But the really exciting thing is that we'll actually be going into a live ServiceNow instance today. And so I'll actually be passing it over to Corey once we get to that portion. So get excited for that part of our call. And the other thing to point out about Academy is that this is actually a reoccurring series. So this is something that we host on a monthly basis. We very recently kicked off our Employee Center Academy series a little bit earlier this year in cadence with the release. And our next session is planned for January. So if you're not already registered for that session, I encourage you to go out to our community and get registered for the continued cadence into the new year. And just in case you're not familiar with our community and you didn't go there today to get registered, in a couple of slides, I'll actually talk through how to navigate there just to make sure that you're aware of the navigation. A couple of other things that I want to talk about. So on the previous slide, I mentioned that we'd love to hear from you and we want to hear about your questions. If you do have a question at any time today, please use the Q&A panel in Zoom. So that's what's highlighted here in pink on the slide. It is important to please place those in the Q&A panel rather than chat. That just helps us stay organized, make sure that we're answering your questions in order, and that other attendees can also have visibility into the questions and answers for kind of maximum benefit of the questions. We also will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any more general comments or things that you would like to add, please feel free to place that in the chat itself. We will be monitoring both. We'll be very closely paying attention to Q&A though. So just wanted to kind of differentiate those two channels. The other thing I want to call out is that our content from today will be available after our call. So if you missed something or if you want to go back and watch our recording, our video from today and our slides will be made available out on our community. All right, now a couple of other things I want to go over before we dig into our actual content for today. We have several resources that cover Employee Center, and I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of those. So first and foremost, I was just referring to the fact that we have a community forum that's dedicated to Employee Center. So if you're not already aware of that and that's not where you went to register for today's event, I want to call attention to that. We have a lot of really great resources out there. We have FAQs, we have blogs, and we continually add the content that's out there. So if you're not familiar with that, if you go out to our community, which is just community.servicenow.com, and you search for Employee Center, you'll be able to land on that forum that we see there. The other thing I want to call your attention to is the fact that we have something called Now Create. And this is probably one of my favorite areas for resources because it actually has leading practice implementation guidance. And so what we actually see in this screenshot are 5 very specific resources or assets that are tailored to Employee Center. So if you're not already familiar with Now Create and the resources that are out there, highly encourage you to go check those out specific to Employee Center. And then last but not least, we also have an Employee Center YouTube playlist. So this has a lot of different videos. This is where the recording from today's session will go. It has past Academy sessions. And it also has an overview video. And this is something that you can access from our community forum, but it's also something that you can access independently via YouTube. So wanted to direct your attention to that. All right, so now for the bulk of our content for today. So we're going to start off by providing you with some background information that'll help you better understand content experiences, what that really means, what it is, and related terms that we'll be using. Then we're going to talk about content experiences specifically in the context of our Employee Center Pro portal and from the employee persona. Then we're going to dig in a little bit deeper and we're going to talk about how you actually work with content experiences and content publishing. So if you're that persona who's actually creating content or scheduling content, or if you're a communications lead, this will actually show you how to dive in and create some of that. And then once we get through that content in slide format, that's where we will go into live build. And that's where, again, I'll pass it over to Corey, and he's going to go into an instance and we'll walk through kind of what it looks like to actually create and publish content as part of a campaign. So we're really excited for that part. And then ultimately, before we close out the session, we do have time dedicated to questions and answers. Again, we'll be answering those in written format, but this will just be kind of summary time. And we also have some frequently asked questions that we would like to cover. And ultimately, while we also have this large group gathered, we have a poll that we'd like to run in Zoom to get some feedback from the group. So without further ado, we will jump into our first area, which is, again, understanding content experiences and related terms.
Hey, Allison, can I say one thing before we jump in?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay. So obviously we want to make sure that everybody has a good time, learns a lot, has some opportunity for discussion. One of the things that, Allison, I don't know if you've seen, but in the chat, people are saying hello and they're all over the world. It's really cool to see all the different locations. So just hello to everybody all across the globe. And we're excited to host this session for you today. So. All right, Allison, you got this. Let's go.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm checking out the chat, and it is really fun to see where everyone is calling in from. That's awesome. And I see I have a fellow person from Minnesota calling, and hello. And I actually do see we already got a question. I'm going to go ahead and answer that live to get it out of the way. So it's understanding that HR service delivery has been combined with this December session. Will there be any HR service delivery content represented, and will the HR service delivery academies continue in 2022? So the answers to both are yes. We will be continuing with the HR Service Delivery Academy next year. These two sessions were just combined for this month for ease, and we wanted both audiences to attend. And we will be talking through some content that could be specific to HR service delivery, but we also have broader content that's specific to IT stakeholders or stakeholders who are just using our platform in general. So thank you for that question. All right, so let's dig in. And where we like to start with our Academy sessions is really by defining our topic for the month. So if you look at the left of this slide, we really have kind of the ServiceNow definition for content experiences. And I won't read through the definition, but what I'll say is that really this is an umbrella term that we use for a set of capabilities that help you target communications and content to meet your employees where they are at the right time. And I'll actually pick a couple of words to specifically highlight and hone into a little bit more. So that use of targeted is very intentional. There are lots of targeting capabilities that are baked into content experiences, and we'll be digging into those and talking in detail about exactly how that works. The other thing I want to point out is really meeting the right employees at the right time. So again, that dives a little bit deeper into all of the robust capabilities that we have around audiences and targeting and triggering kind of your stages or your phases. And so these are all details that we'll dig into, but wanted to kind of bring attention to that. The other thing that I would say is that it's typical for our customers to have kind of goals that are aligned to these three pillars that we see here on the slide when it comes to content experiences. So those common goals would be driving employee engagement, informing and communicating with your employees, and actually driving actions on priority tasks. And so as a result of that, we also typically see knowledge use jumping up from your employees when you run content experiences. And through that, you also see heavy case deflection. And the reason behind that is because with content experiences, you're proactively targeting those employees with the information that they need, and you're really eliminating the need for a case to be opened in the first place. The other thing I like to bring into the kind of conversation whenever we talk about content experiences and what it really is that we all really have what I like to call content experiences in our everyday lives. So if you think today about maybe marketing or advertising communications that you may be receiving, maybe a political campaign, you very specifically are being targeted at a very specific time. And that experience is probably omni-channel. You may receive emails, you may receive SMS text messages, you may receive kind of a banner or an image in your browser. And so I just like to use that as an example to, again, equate this to things that we are seeing in our everyday lives. All right, now on to a couple of quick facts. So I want to talk a little bit more about our release timeline and the packaging. So first off, from a release timeline perspective, this capability was very first introduced way back in our London release. So if you're familiar with our family release cadence, you know that we typically have 2 large family releases per year, and we name them in alphabetical order. So this goes all the way back to L, or London. It's been around for quite some time, which is exciting. And we're now, just to give context, on Rome, or R, and we're getting ready for San Diego. And the other thing to point out is that these features have really evolved and grown significantly since that London release. This has continued to be a very large area of investment for us. We've made a lot of changes and innovations. And so as a part of that evolution, we have made several name changes. So if you've ever heard the terms content delivery, content automation, or campaigns, these are all terms that also fall into this domain. So you're in the right place. The other thing I want to point out about our release timeline and kind of formatting is that we actually have moved content experiences, content publishing, and Employee Center Pro to our ServiceNow store. So in case you haven't already heard of the ServiceNow store, this is actually a new release vehicle or mechanism that we use here at ServiceNow that allows us to release innovations to our customers outside of those family release cadences. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more about the store if you haven't already heard, but our next release actually under Safe Harbor is planned for February. So we're really excited about, again, the pace of innovation that we have with the store. The other thing I want to cover is packaging. So we get a lot of questions on, am I entitled to use this? How do I know if I'm licensed? So content experiences and content publishing are included with our Employee Center Pro portal, the capabilities that are part of that experience. And Employee Center Pro is included with our HR Service Delivery Professional and HR Service Delivery Enterprise packages. So if you have those packages, you have Employee Center Pro. The other thing I want to call out is that Employee Center Pro is also available to license as a standalone item. The other thing I want to call your attention to is that if you were previously licensed for something that you may now know currently or before Rome as Employee Service Center, you are also entitled to Employee Center Pro. And the reason behind that, without going into too much detail, is that what was previously known as Employee Service Center, we've taken that, we've very much enhanced it, repackaged it, and rebranded it in cadence with Rome and our store release. And that's what creates Employee Center Pro as we know it today. So hopefully that helps with some of those FAQs around those two topics.
Hey, Allison, it dawns on me that maybe we could take just a quick poll with like a click of the raise hand on who has actually worked with content automation and campaigns before. If you can, within your Zoom, there's a raise hand button. Just click on that and let us know if you've actually configured and deployed a campaign / content automation / content experiences within ServiceNow.
Yes, I love that. So I'm continuing to see more and more hands raised. That's awesome to see.
Okay, great. Yeah. No, that gives us, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're understanding, who's new to this product versus who's used it before. And so that'll help even in our demo session. So thank you for giving us that feedback.
Yeah, that was fun. Good addition, Corey. That was cool to see all the hands raised.
Awesome.
All right, cool. So now on to kind of a summary of these capabilities. So earlier, I really said that content experiences was an umbrella term. So now I want to give kind of a bird's eye summary overview of all of the different elements that fall under this domain. So starting on the left and working over to the right, I want to talk about content first. So it's really an individual item or artifact that you can create or reuse across content publishing and content experiences. And the really great thing about content is that it can exist in multiple formats. So you see a list over on the left. We have portal content, mobile app content, to-do content, notification content, and forum content. And I'll go into detail in a little bit more as we progress through our presentation on what exactly all of these are and how you might use them. But the important thing to know right now is that content, again, is kind of that individual artifact that you can create, and it can exist in multiple forms, as we see through that list. Moving on to content publishing. So content publishing is our capability that actually allows you to schedule and target these individual pieces of content to your employee audiences. So let's say you have something on your portal, like a banner that you want to target to a specific group of employees. That is really what allows you to achieve that. Now looking at content experiences, this is a capability that in addition to allowing you to schedule and target, it actually allows you to package multiple content items for multiple employee audiences to really create a more seamless end-to-end, what we like to call campaign experience. And so again, what this helps you do is it helps you create something that's omni-channel. So you could have a banner on your portal, you could have a push notification on the app, you could have a to-do. And so what you're doing with that is you're really achieving maximum impact and engagement with your audiences because you're reaching them via those multiple channels. And it's really a process of kind of being engaged through different points of a process. And we'll walk through some examples and some use cases to help bring this to life. But again, really the differentiator between content publishing and experiences, again, publishing gives you that ability to schedule and target, and content experiences really allows you to create that end-to-end omni-channel experience where you're bundling or packaging multiple content items together. The other thing I want to very briefly talk about is analytics and success goals. So this is one of those topics that could probably have its own hour-long session if we wanted to really dive deep. But I did want to very briefly mention the fact that we do have the ability for you to measure the impact and the success of your campaigns with delivered dashboards and what we call campaign success goals. And so you see here, there are some plugins listed on the slide. We do have a content analytics plugin, as well as two PA or performance analytic packs plugins that you can activate to see these dashboards. And just to give a very quick summary of what a campaign success goal is, whenever you're running a campaign, you'll likely have some goals. That goal may be even related to deflecting cases. A campaign success goal essentially allows you to create that goal in our platform and to really track the success of that with data that's coming into the platform in terms of deflection or engagement. And we do have an FAQ once we get towards the end of this session that dives a little bit deeper into some of the details with the analytics. All right.
Allison, there were a couple of questions. One of them is, does this come as a part of ITSM Pro? That was one of them.
So good question. This is not bundled with ITSM Pro. However, it is available as a standalone kind of license for Employee Center Pro.
Got it. And the other one was, is this deck available for all the attendees?
Yes, yep. We'll have a copy of our content available after today's session. So we'll have the recording and everything posted out to community. Great. Okay. It looks like we are caught up on questions. So now let's talk about the different types of content experiences that we typically see. And so there are typically three kind of big buckets that we see in this space. And I'll start with the left, which is time-based. So typically what we see fall under time-based content experiences would be things like news and announcements, or let's say you have maybe some sort of timely update, or maybe a regular reoccurring update, such as your company financials. Maybe you have an event that's happening or perks and you need to communicate those and they're time bound. That's really the types of use cases that fall under time-based. We also have what we call action-based content experiences. So this is really relating back to that goal of driving action on priority tasks. And so typically you would have content and you would actually have a task. And so some example use cases here could be policy acknowledgement. Maybe you have a software transition and there are steps that your employees need to take to actually go through that process. Maybe you're going through your annual benefits open enrollment period and you have an action that your employees need to take. Those are really use cases that fall under that action-based use case. And then finally, on the far right, we have situation-based. And so these are use cases that are, driven by situations that an employee might find themselves in with their experience at work. So maybe they are a new hire, maybe they're going on or returning from parental leave, maybe it's their work anniversary. And so again, these are entirely situation-based, and that's how these types of content experiences are being triggered. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that we really have three target personas for this product. So first and foremost, we have the employee persona. So these are really the consumers of the content they're engaging with and taking action based on the content that's targeted to them. Then we have content creators and communications leads. So these are really the stakeholders or the audience personas that are creating that content and they're designing that experience for your employees to consume. And the really important thing that I want to highlight about these two audiences is that we know that these audiences are not system administrators in ServiceNow. They're not living and breathing in ServiceNow. And so we have really designed our product with these personas in mind when it comes to, again, creating that content. And so as we progress, I want to start talking through some of the capabilities of content experiences by persona. And so first, we'll talk about this in the context of that employee persona and how this specifically surfaces on our Employee Center Pro portal. So what we're looking at here is actually a screenshot of our new delivered Employee Center Pro homepage. And so you see here highlighted in red, the delivered widgets that are placed on the Employee Center Pro homepage that actually display different content types. So on the left, we see that kind of banner widget. It's actually called our content experiences widget. That's the one that has the information about the iPhone 12 upgrade. I'll talk in more detail about that widget in a moment. We're really excited about it. It's new with Employee Center Pro and Roam and the latest releases, and it has a lot of great capabilities. Scrolling down the page or looking over to the right of the screenshot, you also see that we have the upcoming events widget and the video widget placed here. So one thing I want to reinforce, we do have additional kind of compatible content delivery widgets available. We have an event calendar, an announcements widget, and we have a lot more. And if you've been using this capability for a long time, you're probably familiar with some of those widgets, and you may even have them placed on your portal. But really for today, where I want to spend the most time is on this new content experiences widget. Like I said, it's brand new. We're very excited about it. And the thing to know about it is that it's actually the unifying front end of multiple content types for your portal. And so what I mean by this is that it actually supports multiple different types of content. So if you go back to kind of our bird's eye overview, and we were talking about the different types of portal content that you can have, today, in cadence with our latest release, it actually supports both banner and styled content types. And it has a list view layout. So that's kind of what we see in that screenshot. And one thing I want to highlight under Safe Harbor, of course, is that other content types and layouts are in our roadmap. And so this is a widget that we are heavily investing in, and we're very excited to continue to bring this forward. The other thing that's really awesome about this content experiences widget is that it actually includes content tasking ability. So in this screenshot with the iPhone, you actually see that upgrade button. And what that's doing is it's actually linking to an employee task. And so it's really helping connect the dots between this content and that task that's been assigned to, again, drive that action. And once we get to our demo kind of overview and walkthrough and we hop into the instance with Corey, he'll actually connect the dots and we'll get to see some of this. The other thing I want to emphasize about this widget is that it is available by default on our out-of-the-box Employee Center Pro homepage, as we saw on the previous slide. And it's also available on something that we call a topic page. Without going into too much detail, a topic page is something that is driven by a new unified taxonomy that we have as part of Employee Center. And so essentially what that's driving is curated experiences. And those are more intuitive ways for your employees to find different information that they may need. And as a part of that, we're actually dynamically generating these topic pages. And so a topic page could have content tagged to it, or I guess a topic in your taxonomy could have content tagged to it. These automatically generate. So to bring that to life without, again, going too deep, it could be a knowledge article, it could be a quick link, it could be a catalog item. And if that's an area that you're interested in learning more about, that's actually a session that we've hosted previously as an academy. So I'll just keep that kind of brief for today. And the other thing that I want to reemphasize is that this widget can be placed on any existing portal page. So again, like I just mentioned, by default, it's on the out-of-the-box Employee Center Pro homepage, as well as those topic pages, but you can place this on a different portal page to meet your needs. All right, now I want to talk about working with content experiences and content publishing. So we're going to go a little bit deeper, and what we're thinking through in this bucket is really those two personas of the content creator and the communications lead. So if you're in that persona, if you're one of these stakeholders, just to take us back to kind of that central core definition, really what your goal is you're delivering proactive, scheduled, and targeted campaigns to really enhance the employee experience. You're driving actions, you're deflecting cases, and you're giving employees the information that they need. And so to continue to bring this to life, we have some additional kind of use cases on the right-hand side of the slide. I won't read through all of them again, but just kind of have those there for your perusal to continue to think about possible use cases for your organization. Across the bottom, I also have, again, the different types of content listed out. So as we've been talking about, one of those types of content is portal content. And so as we've been discussing, you can have a banner, you can have a video, you can have an event, the list goes on, but that's probably one of our most common types of content is, again, content that would be appearing on your portal. We also have, again, the ability to surface content in our mobile app. So whether it's a banner or another type of content, that's something that you can also target and build to take place within our mobile app. Another really neat type of content that you can have is to-do content. So this very directly ties back to what we were talking about earlier around driving actions on priority tasks. So just to give a quick example, let's say you're running a campaign on annual benefits enrollment. And the entire purpose of that campaign is for your employees to take action and enroll in their benefits. As part of that overall campaign experience, one of your pieces of content could be a to-do to make sure that they take action on that. The nice thing about this is that you can also get pretty sophisticated with your to-do content. So in that same example of open enrollment and benefits kind of being the primary use case or the goal of that campaign, you could actually decide to end your campaign for each employee once they complete that to-do. That way employees aren't kind of continually being reminded via banners or other emails or notifications after they actually complete that required to-do or task. Another type of content that we have is notification content. So this includes email notifications as well as SMS text notifications. So really what this helps drive is, again, that omni-channel experience. You're meeting employees where they are and doing that through a variety of channels that are available to them. And then on the far right, we also have what's called forum content. So if you're not familiar with forums, this is a capability called employee forums. This is part of our Employee Center Pro offering. It's essentially an area on the portal that you can enable to allow employees to collaborate, build a sense of community, self-help, post things like blogs. And one quick kind of fun example that I like to give here is if you have ever used our ServiceNow community, that's actually being driven by the same technology, except for this capability is specifically for employees, and again, is a feature of our Employee Center Pro portal. So as part of this, let's say you have an end-to-end campaign, you have lots of content, you can also, of course, build in forum content to be part of that comprehensive experience. All right, so now let's talk a little bit more about the very basic architecture or kind of the structure of a campaign. So the easiest way to do this is via this kind of visual that we have here. So at the very highest level, you have the campaign itself, right? And at this phase, you're able to essentially define the audience, and you're also able to define the kind of start and stop dates. So in this example, let's say our campaign is around return to workplace. Immediately beneath that campaign, you would have what's called a campaign stage, or you may have also heard that referred to as a bundle in the past. And essentially what this allows you to do is really define when content should be launching and how long it should be available. So there are essentially different stages of that end-to-end experience with this content. And then within the stages themselves, you have the individual pieces of content. So those are the things that we've been talking about, like the portal content, the emails, the to-dos, etc. And so at this stage, you're able to, again, build that content, place it in a stage so it controls when it's launching to your employees. And the nice thing about content is that you can also refine the audience. So to give an example here, let's say for your overall campaign, your audience is all US employees. But let's say there's a specific banner or something that very specifically needs to be restricted to a certain audience. Maybe managers of people need different content, or maybe people at a different location need something that's a little bit more tailored. That is something that you can do via these capabilities. The next thing I want to talk about in a little bit more detail is that targeting. We get a lot of questions around how precise you can get and how exactly that works. So if you think about this in the context of audiences, the good news is you have a lot of options. So first and foremost, you can reuse any existing user criteria or HR criteria that you have in your instance. And so if you're an existing customer today, it's very likely that you've already created user or HR criteria to control things today, like who can read your knowledge articles or who can access certain things on the portal. So again, you can reuse these as part of an audience for a content experience. Another great thing about audiences is that you can actually define conditions based on either your user profile table or your HR profile table using a condition builder. So this is really nice, and that's actually what we see in the screenshot kind of on the bottom left here. So you can see the condition being built as location type is office-based. So this provides quite a bit of flexibility. The other option that you have here is the ability to upload a file. So let's say you need to define an audience, but the data that you need to use to define that audience is not in ServiceNow perhaps. You do have the ability to kind of upload a file as long as you have, username or email kind of in that first column to really uniquely identify who your audience users are. That's something that you can upload that can be used for your content. All right, now I want to talk a little bit more about those stages and how you would actually trigger those. So again, this is something that you can get pretty sophisticated with. And so, of course, we have, the ability to immediately trigger those stages of your campaign immediately. So let's say immediately once you publish that campaign and the start date is met, you'd like that content to trigger right away. That's how you would use that immediate type. You also can use a fixed date. So you can use a calendar picker to essentially set a date on the calendar and use that fixed date as your trigger condition for the content that you have within a stage of your campaign. You can also get, again, a little more sophisticated with this, and you can use a dynamic date. This is one of my kind of favorite ways to trigger stages because, again, it offers that more granular, personalized experience for employees. And so the way this works is you can actually select a dynamic date in the platform, such as, like, let's say employment start date or maybe return to work date. And then you can trigger that either on that date, before, or after. There are kind of stagger conditions that you can set. But again, these are really those situation-based campaigns that we were talking about before. You also have to-do completion. So this allows you to trigger your stage once a user completes a campaign to do. So let's say you have a series of different tasks or to-dos that your employees need to complete, and you'd like to review those in a certain order. That's how you would use this to-do completion stage trigger type. And then ultimately, you also have the ability to use a condition to trigger your stages. So this would essentially present you with a condition builder, and you could build a condition that must be met in order for your campaign stage to be triggered. So again, a lot of flexibility and a lot of sophistication available with these different trigger types. Now I want to talk a little bit about content ownership. So by enabling content ownership properties and content publishing and content experiences, this really allows you to delegate individual content and campaign managers to be responsible for different things. And there are kind of two primary examples that I like to give to kind of bring this one to life. So first and foremost, let's say that you have, campaign managers who are really responsible for content based on audience. So maybe you have one person who's responsible globally for all communications that touch all employees, but let's say you also have people who are responsible locally or regionally or specific to a location. This is something that unlocks that capability to make sure that you have the correct access. Another example I like to give here is, let's say you have sensitive content that you're planning on delivering via a content experience or a campaign. And we have some examples of that listed here on the slide, like a merger announcement, or maybe you have a transition in your leadership. And let's say that even when you're drafting that content, you need that to kind of be restricted and it's sensitive even before it's published. That's also something that you get with this content ownership capability by activating these properties and really making sure that that is associated and only visible to those who need to know. All right, so that was a lot of content in slides. Hopefully that was helpful in terms of context and background. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transition it over to Corey, and we are gonna pivot into that live instance to start bringing some of this to life. So Corey, I will pass it over to you.
All right, here we go. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. I'm gonna move some Zoom stuff out of the way because Zoom gets in the way of this stuff. Okay, all right, so what I'm going to talk about today is, number one, let's just take an overall kind of look at how the end employee views the employee portal, right? And this is out of the box. This is out of the box content. It's demo content. We're not working with the marketing team to try and make this look super pretty for you. Like, what the goal here is to really show kind of functionality and what the capabilities are, and then point out any additional things that are coming that might excite this audience. So what you're looking at right now is our Employee Center Pro, and as Allison said, this is available for anyone who has the Employee Center Pro SKU or has HRSD Pro or Enterprise SKUs. You can combine that with ITSM, but that is separate. But at the end of the day, this is your kind of unified employee portal. And what you're seeing right here is the content experience widget. This is what Allison went through as far as like how we are ultimately trying to create a modern announcement widget for the top of the page and really any portion of this page. You can take this content experience widget and put it anywhere you want on this homepage or any topic or other portal page that you need. Now, so what we're going to talk about today is a return to work use case. I'm going to give kind of a demo around how some of this content, like coming back to work, right? This personalized announcement about coming back to work, or maybe even a survey about how your transition went when you came back to work, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about that as far as how we enabled this on the front end. One thing I really want to highlight here before we jump into the back end is, let's say I wanted to actually link over to a task. This is functionality that came in Rome. I can actually assign a link to a to-do. within the banner space, and really kind of highlight this to-do message that we're saying, hey, we need you to watch this video, or we need you to sign off on a document before you come back to work. And so we're gonna definitely dive into a kind of a faux return to work use case. And this is just a great example of some of the great features that we've released recently along with EC Pro. So again, this is our end user kind of employee perspective. Now what we're going to do is jump into, hey, how did this banner get here? Where did these come from? And so one of the first things that we need to kind of explore is, what did this look like before? As Allison mentioned, there's been some terminology changes over the past year. We actually released these features in London as part of our family release, and since have moved over to the store. And back in the day, content experiences used to be called content automation, or we call it campaigns. You'll hear me use that interchangeably here. The other thing that we need to note is, you might have heard of a plugin called content delivery. The content delivery is really kind of the foundational library of content that ultimately gets displayed on your portal or across channel. If you have other channels like Allison showed, which is to-dos, notifications, mobile, things like that. And so really, we want to make sure that that it's understood that we've had kind of an evolution of campaigns, content automation, content delivery into content experiences and content publishing. So that's what I'm going to show today. Now, let's focus in on portal real quick. Let's talk portal. Where EC Pro, Employee Center Pro is kind of new, and it's exciting. One of the things that used to was fairly problematic when it came to publishing content onto the Employee Service Center, which is now EC Pro, is this idea that, hey, I have to work with my content in these different categories. And if I go into, like, say, this portal content category, and I want to place what we call a styled content banner, and styled content is really, think of it as no code configuration, right? Like you want to if you have non-technical content authors or content managers, you want to work with this content because you're not dealing with HTML code, you're not dealing with CSS or scripting. Now, what you can see right here is it's kind of a form. There's a lot of fields, and based on what I do here, some things may change. Okay, as you can see, it could be kind of overwhelming or confusing. So we wanted to really tackle this problem of non-technical admins working with this kind of content. So we introduced, and I'm just going to leave this, I'm not going to create anything here. We created this content library concept. Okay. And what I'm going to do is kind of take you through the creation of this return to work survey. And I've already got it kind of built out here in the system, but what you can see is a couple of different things. Number one, this isn't just a giant configuration form. We have a new kind of wholly organized form to be able to kind of change the parameters of your content item, and ultimately have these very easy kind of configurable parameters to basically say, this is what I want my content to do. And I've uploaded this image here. This is a, it's a background image that I've prepared offline. I've added some additional items and this will come back into when we get into the campaigns, but the goal is, in a return to work use case, I need a piece of content that suggests, hey, we have made some changes and we'd like to check in with the employee base and get a survey, right? And so I've filled out this design form here, as you can see, and I even get, and let me go ahead and close this up. I even get a generic preview. Now, why do I call it generic? So at the time of creation of this content, we do not have a location for where this content is going to ultimately appear on the portal. So for now, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, this is kind of what it's going to look like. This may change. It may not be 100% accurate, but compared to prior releases, you had no sense of that. And so we really wanted to get into the space of being able to offer easy configurable design options while being able to have a generic preview that gives you opportunity to kind of see what you're configuring. Now, if I want to make this live, I'm going to go over to the Publish tab. And the Publish tab serves as a very foundational sense of where I want to place this item that I've just created, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and let's just say, you know, return to work survey on maybe a topic page, for instance. I'm going to put this on the oh, maybe I don't have the topic page. Let me just double check. There we go. I'm going to put this on a specific topic. And what I need to do is for here within a topic page, as opposed to the home page, because it's already there, I'm going to want to select my taxonomy. And I'm going to want to put it in my topic content experience widget. And then I'm going to decide, okay, where does this survey for return to work exist? Now, maybe this would be great on, for instance, you know, let's just go with benefits just for today. And then I'm going to target it to who I need to target this to. Well, everybody is kind of interested in return to work. So this is a very basic way of saying, I need this live right away. And I can do a little bit of targeting via time frame, you know, start and end week, end times. So I can do some basic targeting from a time window perspective. But that's where content publishing ends. What if I wanted to make this in a much more kind of complex campaign that has multiple stages and is triggered via multiple ways? So I'm going to jump over there in a minute. But before I do that, I just want to highlight a couple of extra things. Number one, this banner, like I said, can be pushed to a topic, to a homepage, to any page on the portal. And in February, early next year, we're going to actually offer a opportunity to be able to preview this live in the full portal render. And I'm actually going to show you a little bit of what that looks like on the campaign side, because we have that today. But one of the really exciting opportunities that we have for delivering this content is being able to render that live in the portal. So that is very coming soon, and that's why the whole store release process is a really great opportunity for us to deliver iterative enhancements quickly over time. So that's coming very soon. The other question you might have is, hey, can I edit this? Can I change the background of this this image that's showing here to make sure that it looks you know, totally appropriate for my banner? The answer is yes. That is also coming early next year. So just wanted to kind of whet the appetite a little bit on what's coming. Now, I can publish this singularly right here, but what we really want to explore is how do we take this content library worth of content? I'm going to go ahead and leave this. How do we, oh, actually, before I jump into there, one thing I want to just highlight is that within our content library, there's a dedicated creation flow where we no longer have to worry about the content categories and the individual lists and forms. We have actually the ability to create this content individually by platform. So you can kind of see how this really easy to use interface is built into this content library flow. So if I want to build portal content, there's all these different types. If I want to build mobile content, if I want to build notifications such as email and push, and we even have SMS text if you want to integrate into our SMS text product. Tasking, do we want to create tasking? So all of this is available within this new interface as of the November store release. And as we add in additional plugins from ServiceNow, like being able to submit pulse surveys, being able to create community content, there's even a Facebook Workplace integration that you can create content right here within ServiceNow and push that out to Facebook Workplace. So I wanted to highlight that. before we move into the campaign side of the demo. Okay, so think about it this way. I've created a bunch of return to work content. You can kind of see it here. And what I want to do now is wire this up into a complex, I shouldn't say complex, but a multifaceted communication. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to go into my content experiences builder, and I'm going to say, as a non-technical admin, how can I easily do this? How can I make sure that all of my content is wired up and ultimately, going to be published prior, with high quality, and making sure that all my settings are correct. So the first thing I'm going to do, if I create this return to workplace campaign, is I'm going to go into my campaign builder. Now, let me go ahead and just kind of boil this down a little bit. So as Allison talked about, we have two really key areas that we work with when we're talking about wiring up complex and multifaceted campaigns of content. And that is audiences. So my audience right now on this return to workplace demo is actually just active users, right? That's kind of the broad audience. But what if I want to refine that into unique audiences? And so one example of this is a real simplistic example is non-US users versus US users. Maybe you have different messaging based upon that audience. Okay, so that's possible here at the content level. You can actually go into these individual content items that are being kind of filtered in from your content library that you just built in content publishing, that demo that I just showed for that survey. I'm going to come to that here in a minute. But that is where all that content lives, is right there in your content publishing content library. Now, I can refine that content based on audience. And the other thing I can do is I can trigger content based on different settings. So within our campaign, we've got this start time, right? And let's say we're ready to push this live. Any stage that is triggered at immediate basically goes live as soon as that campaign is triggered. And so I'm going to use my preview functionality and just kind of show some different content items that might be going out when that campaign is triggered. And here I'm showing you a banner, I'm showing you an email. And so you can kind of see like this content is going live when that campaign is triggered. Now, we have some dynamic triggers here. I'm going to hop into one of these, okay? The first one is, hey, we're going to show some content based on when someone comes back to the workplace. And then we're going to show content based on when they've been back to the workplace for a significant amount of time. And that's where our survey stage comes in. So this is all the content that shows, for instance, when somebody comes back within the US, this banner is meant for them. You probably saw that on the employee end. But let's also show maybe a to-do that they're going to receive as well. And this is a task that they need to complete, watching this video, right? I showed this to you in the front end. So this is how that content is being wired up within the builder. And we've got mobile, to-dos, portal content, emails. Now let's one more pass at the trigger. This is a dynamic trigger. And what this is doing is it's saying, hey, instead of a time-based trigger, how about we show content when the field, the return to workplace date on the HR profile has been populated, right? So that's a dynamic trigger. And so what happens is in this case, we want to say you've got this return to workplace date, and then it's been 90 days since. Now we're going to trigger a survey for you. And then once they have completed that trigger or that survey to do, we trigger another stage of content that sends an email that says, hey, thank you for filling that out. And so the final point about how we wire this in is, let's say we want to actually add another piece of content. We just went through that return to work survey banner, let's add that piece of content right here into the campaign. And so this is our survey stage. I want to make sure that it shows up on the right page. In this case, it's our dashboard, and then of course, that content experience widget. So that's how we tell it, this is where it lives. I've just dragged and dropped, super easy, that content that we just created prior into this campaign. Once this campaign is set up and ready to go, I hit publish, and everything that you see here, cross-channel, multi-channel, whether it's mobile, portal, notifications via email, all of that kicks off and then ultimately is deployed to the end user via portal, via email, via the mobile app. And so that's kind of an overview for how we ultimately deliver content to our campaign or through a campaign, build it and deliver it. Allison, I'm looking, it is 6 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short there and hand it back to you.
All right. So a couple of questions that often come up that we wanted to be very sure to read through. The first one is around when you should really be using content publishing versus content experiences. So this comes up in maybe every conversation that I have with customers. And the answer here is that content publishing is really best used for simple use cases. And when I say simple use cases, it's typical for that to really include one piece of content. So maybe it's just a banner, or maybe it's just a notification. And it makes sense to use content experiences when you're really looking for that more omni-channel experience and you have those multiple content items and you have different stages or phases of your campaign. The other thing that
I would also say, just real quick, one real great use case with content experiences, let's say I want to trigger a bunch of content, similar content, but to different audiences. And audiences location is a really great example. If I want to create 4 banners that should be unique to each location of 4 different office locations, that would be a great example of where you would use content experiences versus content publishing.
Exactly. Really good call out. That's a big one that comes up with customers quite often. The other thing that we like to call out in terms of content experiences versus content publishing is that in order to take advantage of those analytics capabilities and those campaign success goals capabilities that we very briefly talked about earlier, you do have to be using content experiences. So just keep that in mind as well. The other question that comes up quite a bit, and again, like I mentioned earlier, this is a really big topic. Maybe we'll plan it for a future session. But what types of analytics are really available for campaigns? So in addition to kind of some of the baseline content analytics that you get that capture things like general portal page views, we have a lot of tracked actions that are part of a campaign. And so just to give a couple of examples, this would include things like impressions or views, click-throughs, to-do completion, event downloads. The other thing to call out here is that that is something that's available via a ServiceNow tracking profile, but you can also leverage kind of an integration and a tracking profile with Google Analytics, and that gets you some additional tracking and metrics. The other thing that I would kind of point out is we do have some more general metrics that you can gauge as part of a campaign, such as your total engagement. And again, we do have those success goals that we talked about previously. So I'll kind of do a check-in. I know, Corey, we probably have a lot of questions. I'm thinking what we may need to do just due to time is take an export of some of these and actually post all of the answers after the live event to make sure we get to everything.
Agreed.
But do you have anything that you feel has come in through the Q&A that would be good to discuss live?
So I'm actually answering some questions, but actually what I'd really love to do is poll our audience since we only have a couple minutes. I have just a very specific set of poll questions. If you could take some time, and then yeah, we can scroll through some of this Q&A as well while you're figuring this out. Basically, what we're looking to understand is, have you used campaigns and/or content publishing in the past? And then if not, we would love to know why. And maybe, it could be as simple as, I didn't know about this capability, but given kind of the post-pandemic world, corporations are moving into hybrid and remote work. Employees, we feel these capabilities are super important and very, very useful for companies who are delivering in these situations. So definitely want to understand, what if there's a holdup on why your organization isn't deploying these. What is that holdup? We want to address it. We feel these capabilities are really powerful and exciting for companies.
Awesome. It looks like a lot of you are kind of submitting your answers via that poll. The numbers continue to go up, so we'll keep it open for another, let's say 30 seconds or so, and then we'll review the results. And that's a pop-up in Zoom. If you don't see it, just look in Zoom and it should be there for you to submit your vote. And the other thing that I will reemphasize, we just said this, but I do see we have a lot of questions. We've already answered 31, which I, again, want to give a shout out to our audience. This has to be probably one of our most interactive Academy sessions to date. So thank you for all of those questions. I promise you that Corey and I will export these.
We will.
And we'll get answers to you if we haven't answered you live. I am going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results so we can very quickly look at those together.
Awesome.
So Corey, I'll let you kind of peruse the results that we got.
Very cool. Yeah, no, this is super helpful. And, we can certainly look at this closer, but definitely appreciate everybody's time, everybody's participation. This has been a super exciting session. And, just to reiterate what Allison said, a lot of great questions. We will get these answered and we will get this posted on the community page where this all lives.
Yes. Thank you again for everyone who was able to join live. We will get those answers posted out on community. And once this recording is available, we'll also upload this and this will be available for playback. So thank you, everyone.